As we near the end of Black History Month, we have another exceptional change maker to tell you about. She is making history right now, bringing together women of color in a shared workspace where they exchange ideas, offer resources, and lift each other up to be their greatest selves, which is incredible. And it's all in honor of one of the greatest writers of the Harlem Renaissance, Zora Neale Hurston. That makes her a rad human. From Zora's house, let's welcome LC, everybody. Just looking so cool. I love your whole vibe.
Thank you.
I love it. So how is Zora's house different from other shared workspaces?
Well, Zora's House is a nonprofit co-working and community space that was created by women of color for women of color. Yeah. And I think it's not the typical community or co-working space that people think of when they hear that term. The best way that I've heard it described was actually by one of our early members who said, imagine your favorite coffee shop and your homegirl's house had a baby, and that's Zora's house.
I love that. What a good description.
That's what I said. I was like, I'm just gonna write that down real quick.
That is now mine. Yeah.
Thanks.
So this grew pretty fast, right?
Yeah, so it did grow fairly quickly. So when I first had the idea, I really just wanted to test it out. I was still pretty new to Columbus, so I wanted to see if there were other women of color in Columbus who were also craving that type of community.
Yeah.
And so I started this. Yeah, right. So I started this meetup group called Zoras Daughters. And, you know, we started doing the type of programs that I thought that I wanted to do at Zora's house. We did like pop-up co-working, and we did vision board parties. We drank a lot of wine. There was a lot of wine involved.
Yeah.
And, you know, over time, I realized that there were so many other folks who were craving this. And Columbus, like many other places in the United States, women of color are one of the fastest growing populations. And many times we are craving community because a lot of us navigate, you know, predominantly white spaces where we may be the only person of color, or predominantly, you know, male spaces where we may be the only woman. And so we're at this intersection where we could go all day and be the only person in the coffee shop in our neighborhood, the only Black mama at the PTA, the only Black woman or Latina woman like on our leadership team.
Yeah.
And so we just knew that this was a space that other folks were yearning for. So a few months after moving to Columbus, I found a vacant lot in a historically Black neighborhood. And my husband and I used our life savings to buy that lot and build Zora's house.
You believe it that much? That's amazing.
And we're still married.
Look at you.
That's Zora's house, yeah, and that's my son. He was about a month old at that point. So
you put a lot on your plate at once.
Girl, do not recommend.
Yeah.
Not a strong choice, but here we are.
Challenge that marriage.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, that's a lot.
He's still here. I think he's just too tired to leave.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going
You're
nowhere.
probably tired too. I was like, that's a lot. Well, in addition to space, you still offer a ton of programming. So explain what kind of programming.
So we have a whole lot of programs that are all about helping women of color like advance their creativity, their leadership, their entrepreneurship. But one of my favorite programs is actually called Wealth Builders. And it's a program specifically for what we call first-generation wealth builders. So we often think about first-generation college students and how they're having an experience that many people in their family can't really advise them with. Well, for many of those folks, myself included, we may have grown up in a situation where our family didn't have a lot of wealth, whether it was, you know, growing up in poverty or poverty adjacent. We were the ones who got out. We were the ones who got to college. And now we have these like big, important six-figure jobs. And hearing for the first time about, you know, okay, what do we need to do to make sure we're retiring? Or if I'm thinking about retirement, how am I also thinking about retiring my mom who's only had, you know, part-time jobs or never had insurance?
Taking care of people under the umbrella.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that.
Exactly. Yeah. So for a lot of the members, that's their reality. And programs like that are really special because people have the opportunity to feel heard and like they can share those things in a really safe space.
Yeah, and share your dreams without anybody laughing about it and being like, all right, let's do it.
That's right. It's just like, okay, well, here we are. The wine's here. The whiteboard's here. Like, let's make it happen.
So, okay, let's talk about the real Zora, Zora Neale Hurston, who the space was named after. So tell us more about Zora. How did she enter your life?
Yeah, so Zora Neale Hurston is one of the most prolific writers of the Harlem Renaissance. And she wrote during a time when folks thought that, like, you know, Black people needed to use literature to only portray certain aspects of the Black experience. And she really bucked that trend. She wrote about women who got divorced and who drank and had sex. And, you know, she said these women, their lives are art. Like, they are worthy of, like, our notice. They're worthy of our mention. And that was so huge that she really celebrated those women where they were. But what was really interesting and tragic about her story is that even though she was so prolific and just really, really cool, that she actually died penniless, and she ended up in an unmarked grave. And it wasn't until in the 1970s when Alice Walker, who was a professor teaching at Barnard at the time, came across some papers, because Zora had studied there, and she came across some of her papers, and she was like, why do I not know about this woman? Like, how have I never heard about her? Why are we not teaching her work? And she ended up writing this piece called In Search of Zora Neale Hurston, and like single-handedly brought Zora Neale Hurston back into our modern understanding of like literary genius. And what's really, really cool about their story is that after the essay was published, she actually walked the graveyard where Zora Neale Hurston was buried, and she marked her grave. And she said in the inscription, "I will not allow our geniuses to be forgotten." And that whole idea that, like, as long as I'm breathing, I will not allow your genius to be forgotten. I will not allow your genius to be diminished. For one woman of color to say that to another, that's what Zora's House is about.
Inspires the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Thousands of women have been a part of Zora's House, helping bring each other's genius to light. A few are in our audience right now. Well, let's talk to Storm specifically. What's up, Storm?
Hi.
Hi. So, like, why join Zora's House, and how do you feel like it's impacted your life?
So I actually joined Zora's House in 2020, so it's about 4 years now. And when I originally joined, I was seeking community and professional growth. And not only did I get that tenfold, Zora's House has impacted every area of my life. I was able to start my own advocacy program because Zora's House partnered with me to create Survivors Not Victims, an advocacy program that supports Black women and women of color who have survived domestic and sexual violence.
Wow.
Zora's House, for so many women, myself included, it was my first safe home my entire life. You know, that is the impact of Zora's House. It is not just a place to network and to come together to work. It is a community, it is a family, it is sisterhood.
Wow. That's incredible. I'm so happy you found it. That's incredible to find that in life. Not everybody even finds that, you know, so I'm glad you're here. We're shining a light. Everybody knows now, but what you want, talk about expansion of Zora's House. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish more so?
Well, you know, we moved into our 2,000 square foot house. It's an actual house, okay? We moved into a little 2,000 square foot house, and it's been amazing. It served us really, really well, but we're really bursting at the seams. And so one of the big things right now is that we are in the process of building a 10,000 square foot, $6 million facility.
My God. That's amazing.
Which is really exciting, also very stressful, but with the community behind me, we have been able to raise over $5 million of the $6 million. We are so close to our goal. And I know we're gonna be able to do it because people during Black History Month oftentimes want to focus on Black history, which is amazing, but we also have to think about Black futures and thinking about what that looks like, and that's the future that we're living into at Zora's House.
I love that. Think about Black future. That's beautifully put. Well, Elsie doesn't know this, but we did a little digging and tracked down 3 of Zora's remaining family members. They have the Zora Neale Hurston Trust, and joining us now from the Trust is Ray. Give it up for Ray, everybody. So what do you want to say to Elsie?
So I have to make it clear, I am not a family member of Zora Neale Hurston, but I actually work for her family via the Zora Neale Hurston Trust, which is established and run by her familial relatives. And so we had to be here. I'm representing them as a Zora Neale Hurston scholar and their director of programs. And we had to be here in person to celebrate with you and clap for you and congratulate you for the amazing work that you're doing and your intention behind honoring Zora. So for that, congratulations.
The family also issued a formal statement of appreciation, which we had framed for you, actually. So you can hang it up in your new building that's coming. have one more thing as well. Scholastic believes in the power of books to build community and joy. When they heard about your dream of creating a library where women of color can read, write, and share books, they wanted to help with a donation of $15,000 just to chip in.